And I want to actually mention something that, yes, I do book marketing. That's what I'm known for. My company is VIP Book Marketing. But I don't believe that your book exists in a vacuum. And it's not, I'm not a horse with blinders on. I am looking at the whole brand. So I believe that you take that book and you integrate the book marketing into your overall brand marketing.
I
Because
love it.
if your messaging is not landing, nobody's going to buy your book, let alone pay for your course or hire you one-on-one.
Hi, I'm Erin Marcus, former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. Welcome to the Ready Yet podcast. We're excited to bring you more than 100 episodes of interviews and insights designed to help entrepreneurs get the financial and emotional freedom they need in order to build a business and a life they're proud of. And we are live. I'm always so excited when I do the technology correctly because it's not an assumed situation. And I'm excited for this episode of the Ready Yet podcast that we're also simulcasting live because we do that sometime. Melanie Herschorn and I had an awesome conversation the other day about intention about a book, what your book is for, how she became an entrepreneur. So I am excited to share this with everybody else, give people what I call the tangible tidbits from your subject matter expertise, but also let's shorten some people's learning curves by sharing with them what not to do because I already tried it that way and it didn't work, right? That's if we do nothing else for people. So before we get into all that, why don't you give a more formal introduction of who you are and what you do?
Okay, I'll try, Erin, but I'm not a very formal person, so
give
me some grace. Give me some grace here. So formally speaking, what I do is I help nonfiction authors and children's book authors create a marketing strategy so that they can sell more books and speak on stages and speak on podcasts like this so that they can really become a subject matter expert and not just write the book, but actually have people know about it too.
And that really is the trick, right? I understand there's so many people out there who have heard, especially entrepreneurs, oh, thought leader, write a book, thought leader, write a book. But if you don't, and that's great. Like I 100% agree. I'm in the process of writing my book, but just like with marketing, like with anything, with your offer, if you don't reverse engineer what you even want to have happen, the end results, we'll just call them frustrating.
Bang your head against the wall situation. Yes. So I liken it to this. I'm actually right now in the process of planning my daughter's bat mitzvah. And that's this, when she's 12, 13, she's going to have a big old party. Okay. So, and I'm getting the venue and the food and the entertainment and the decor. And what would happen if I didn't send out invitations?
Yes.
No one would come.
No one would come.
So no one would come. It's the same thing with writing a book. You write a book, but you don't tell anybody, nobody's going to buy it.
And truthfully, it's more than, even if you have a decent social media following, even if you've had your business for a while, it's still not quite enough for what I would consider a launch campaign, right? It is very, a launch campaign, an entire campaign is very different than what am I talking about this month on my social?
Absolutely. And more than that, what a lot of authors get wrong, I don't like that word, but it's true, is they hold up a picture of their book, or rather, I'm sorry, they hold up their book in a picture is what I mean to say.
Yes.
And it's like, look at me in my book. And, yes, that is going to get some really great likes.
Yeah.
But that is not going to convert into purchases. Because after you do it the first time, second time's not as exciting.
Right.
I had a client who said to me, well, I posted a picture of myself with my book and it got 150 likes. And I was like, that's great. But we
And
have
what
to start
happens?
going through, right? We have to go through the book and pull out all the goodness and really truly develop a marketing strategy that's going to show people the value you provide and why you are a credible subject matter expert, and then lead them to the purchase. And of course, it's not going to go, no one's ever heard of me before. Here's my book. Oh, they bought it. It's that, and I know you talk about this, it's the know, like, and trust factor. If people don't know you, they ain't going to buy your book, even if it's a low ticket item.
Even if it's, and that's what I think people forget, is even if it's a low ticket item. That's really interesting. So I'll give you what I've suddenly found myself in possession of like 5 different books that I have bought in the last couple of weeks. So why did I do that? It's very exciting. I love the book. But it's very exciting because, and how did that happen? It happened because there's 2 people whose podcasts I listen to all the time. And they've had people and authors on their podcast where I have now listened to them for like an hour. And then I went and bought their book.
Exactly. That's how it works.
That's how that works.
Exactly.
And I say the same thing, and here's the thing. This is not just about books. This is not just about books. No. You can say the same thing about courses. If you build a course, if you offer, and this is what, in my world, I do this all the time. We offer live events on a very regular basis. But if all we did was post one time and said, hey, look at my really cool sub brand for my upcoming live event, which, by the way, we used to do that, which is also why we used to get 5 people at our live event. And now we've learned that doesn't work real well. Now we have 100 people regularly at each event, and it's growing because of exactly what you're talking about, that there needs to be that consolidated marketing. So so we told everybody very blatantly, because I'm direct, you're direct, this is how we move forward quickly, not wasting anybody's time by blowing smoke up their skirts. But we've said that, like, just posting a picture of you in your book is not enough. So if you were going to give some nice tidbits for people, what would you tell them to do?
Okay. First thing, open your book. It's a treasure trove of content.
Yes.
Look at your introduction. How many stories have you told in that you could repurpose online? And people are going to go, oh my God, Erin did that. I need to read her book.
Yeah.
And it's all there. And I want to actually mention something that, yes, I do book marketing. That's what I'm known for. My company is VIP Book Marketing. But I don't believe that your book exists in a vacuum. And it's not, I'm not a horse with blinders on. I am looking at the whole brand. So I believe that you take that book and you integrate the book marketing into your overall brand marketing. Because if your messaging is not landing, nobody's going to buy your book, let alone pay for your course or hire you one-on-one.
It's so true, right? The integrated, and that was a big problem for me when I first had to do my own marketing, because I have a journalism degree, which means if you've said it once, it's over.
Right.
If I've said it once and now we're on the next day, that content in my previous world's training was that content is no longer relevant. That content is no longer timely, is the word. And that will kill you as a marketer.
Yes. Don't do that.
Don't do that. That don't take as long to learn that as I took to learn that.
And, that's a very valid point. And of course, as a journalist, right, second day story is more about the analyzing of what happened yesterday and not the retelling of the facts. That said, on social media, not everybody's going to see your stuff. Right. And even if they do, you're just reinforcing it. So you have to stop thinking of it like a journalist and start thinking of it like an advertiser. How many times do you see the same commercial? They don't change the commercial every time they air it.
And here's the thing. This is wonderfully beautiful, exciting news for entrepreneurs, because one of the biggest questions I get is, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to talk about. And the great news that we're giving you here is you really only need a handful of things. You don't need this endless supply of new content. You might want to talk about it differently. You make it relevant to what's going on that day. But truthfully, you only need a few things.
And let's make their day even better. If you wrote it in the book, you've already written it.
You've already written it. There you go. You don't even have to create it. You already did that part.
Don't even have to create it.
Awesome. So let's go a little bit personal here. How did you get into this? Because I love this. It's one of my, I teach strategy. I don't do tactics, but I have my favorite tactics. And a book as a credential is one of my hands down favorite tactics. So I'm a much bigger fan of that than an online funnel, for example. I think books as marketing tactics is just fantastic. So how did you get into this?
It was not linear.
Why would it be linear?
Right. And what's funny is yesterday I was telling somebody this story and I got to one part of it and she was drinking coffee and she spat it out all over her computer because she was just not expecting it. So let me take you through.
Yeah.
So I started in PR in Hollywood. And when I was laid off, I was not laid off at that point. I quit after a famous redheaded comedian told me off on my birthday. Then
there's only two and they're both jerks that I'm thinking of. So it could go either way.
It's the woman.
Got it.
So then I went and I got a master's in journalism. So like you, I was a journalist and I worked at a radio news station in Pennsylvania for 3 years. Planned a pregnancy in a non-election year, as much as you can plan a pregnancy. And then I got laid off when I was 5 months pregnant.
Well, and here's the other thing. There's no more non-election years. Have you noticed that?
Yes, I have noticed that.
There's no such, that used to be
it was a thing.
That used to be a thing. That's not a thing anymore.
No, it's not a thing anymore. We're always in an election year. I agree.
Election year.
So then I went, oh God, what do I do now? My entire identity is wrapped up in being a journalist. If I'm not a journalist, I'm a nothing.
Oh my God. Can we just stop there for 1 second?
Absolutely.
Because I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's more of a female problem than a male problem, but it is not exclusive to women. High achieving women whose self-identity is completely wrapped up with their career. And it's brutal. I mean, I'm the same exact way, right? I'm the same exact way. And it's one of the things they don't really teach you in corporate that is part of entrepreneurial world, that you have a personal brand that's separate from your business brand.
Right.
And you didn't lose that by getting laid off. And in those moments where you think you've lost everything, the only thing you really lost was that particular paycheck. But we don't know that at the time.
No, not at all. And I was just, I came home that day because of course, I get to work, they pull me into an office and they go, by the way, you're done, right. But you can stay for another 2 months. You're just not allowed to go on the air anymore.
So what were you supposed to do if that was your job?
So I actually did an entire series that was pre-recorded so that the news director could hear it to make sure I wasn't yelling profanities into the microphone, which I never would have done anyway.
Right.
But I came home from work that day. They sent me home from work that day. I'd been there half an hour to get fired. And there's a neighbor that I barely know standing on the front lawn that we shared in the townhouse development. And I go up to her and I just burst out crying on her shoulder. And I'm just like, I barely know her. She's very nice. Sobbing on her shoulder. And I keep thinking, I'm nothing now. And it was such a low point. So I could only have gone up from there. And about a week later, the local newspaper scooped me up.
Which, so perfect point. So how when you say you can only go up from there, totally understand. What did you do to turn that around? Because some people, it's a choice. How you respond to what happens around you and to you is a choice. Obviously, what happened to you wasn't the choice, but how you respond to it is. So what did you do? Because truthfully, a week is not a lot. I mean, that's a pretty quick recovery time.
I mean, I was still working. So and I was pregnant, and I spoke to I guess it was the managing editor of the newspaper. And granted, it was going to be basically a part-time, like very part-time. So I made about 1/20th the salary that I had before, maybe 1/25th. My mental math isn't very good. But she said, she said, we want you to come and work for us. And I said, I'm pregnant, right? And she said, yeah, so
people do it all the time.
Right? And Erin, no joke, my first day on the job as a freelancer, I got the next day. So I was at a school board meeting at night on a Monday. Tuesday morning's edition, I had the above the fold front page story. All about,
as you were busy telling yourself, I'm nothing now, and I'm a problem because I'm pregnant.
Yep.
And yet the universe was showing you that's not how anybody else sees you.
Yeah. And so that went on, I took 3 months off, and then I was like, I need to go back to this. I need to use my brain again. And
adults.
So I
need adults.
I need adults, exactly. And then we had to move. My husband was done his training in Pennsylvania, and we had to move, and he got a job in Arizona. So we packed up our lives and we moved to Arizona. And when we got here, I said, well, I can go try to get a job as a journalist and pay a babysitter more than I'm going to make.
Right. Not high paying jobs, by the way, if you didn't know that. Not high paying jobs.
No. And I had this idea, and I couldn't get it out of my head. And it was to design and manufacture breastfeeding clothing.
Because that's completely adjacent to journalism. Right?
This is where that lady, that poor lady,
things, right? If there's two things that go together like peanut butter and jelly, it's journalism and breastfeeding clothing.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. Love what you're learning here and interested in more? Check out conqueryourbusiness.com to get immediate access to all sorts of additional resources and stay updated on our upcoming training events.
So, but I'll tell you, it's like my grandma who's 98 years old. What she always says is, everything you do goes into the pot, and you never know when you are going to need to draw from it. So all the while that I was learning the skills as a journalist, as a PR professional, I used those in my business as a designer, as a manufacturer. I pitched my company to TV stations. I got 2 TV spots.
It's communication skills.
That's what it is.
Huge to have communication skills.
And research. Think about, as a journalist, how much research. I started from nothing. I Googled my way to the top. I literally had no idea what I was doing. And yet I started selling my clothes on Nordstrom.com. And I learned as I went.
Right. You didn't wait until you had the perfect amount, because there isn't any, right, of education, experience, getting ready to be ready to get ready to do the thing. You just learning by doing is really the only way to learn.
It's true. But it's scary, right? And
it's a terrible experience.
and I live in fear. I remember, I was at this trade show, and I'm standing on the floor of the trade show. Most people, if you ever have been to a trade show, you know that you go to a booth and there are a number of people in each booth. And I would do this totally alone.
Oh.
So I couldn't even go to the bathroom.
Been there.
Not my right. And so I remember just standing in complete terror, not wanting somebody to write an order because that meant I had to do something about it. And it was so scary. But I kept pushing through. And then about year 6, I hired somebody that I knew who she had run these gifting suites in Hollywood. And she said to me, I'm doing marketing now, and I really think that I could help you. And I thought, well, she's really tapped into the baby industry and this and that. Anyway, it was the beginning of the end. There was a lot of emotional and verbal abuse. There was a lot of money being spent that never resulted in any return at all. And after about a year and a half of that, I'd given her about $25,000, and I was just a shadow of my former self. I could not even open my home office door. I had so much anxiety around everything. And I finally, sorry.
I think people, like, we realize this because it is a fear, but, and I don't want to say, I'm almost hesitant to say this out loud because I don't want it to stop anybody, and you didn't let it stop you, but it's so easy for things to fall apart.
It is.
It really, if the stars aren't aligned and the vigilance isn't there and the 18 different things to keep an eye out for.
But that just means that the right thing is coming.
Exactly.
And this is not the right thing. And I'll tell you, as much as I loved it and I loved the idea of it, I think I loved the idea of it more than actually it.
Oh, that totally makes sense.
And I'd always wanted to be a fashion designer. No, not breastfeeding.
Yeah, well, I always wanted to be a runner, but that is not happening. Like, I can't do that, right? Anytime I've actually gone and tried it, there's been injuries and doctors and I love the idea. The
universe, right? And that's the universe saying, Erin, we love you, but don't be a runner.
Get on the bike.
And so it was telling me, this is not. In some ways, it's not cerebral enough. I'm very much like, I love to use my brain at all times. And I wasn't.
Right.
I cannot, I was sewing things to fix them up and watching, series long things of Netflix while I was working. Like, I can't even listen to a podcast while I'm working because I need to have all my focus. And so after all that went down and I closed the business and some other things happened, it was just a whole big poop show. I thought, all right, what can I do now? And I realized that with all the experience that I'd had, it was all leading me toward helping people with their marketing, because I would always be a supportive person and that I would always teach them what to do so they never had to deal with a person like that. Yeah. And then eventually authors started phoning me and saying, hey, can you help me with this? And I, sure. And then finally I put my stake in the ground and I said, I am only going to help authors. And that's it. And here I am. And I, start asking me about my clients. I start beaming because they're my,
right. Isn't that right? Like, you're listening to your own reaction instead of forcing something, instead of trying to create something. If your reaction to, here's the thing, there's every job, every business, there's parts of what you do that's not your favorite part.
Amen to that. That is a very important thing.
But if you are dreading and unhappy with the majority of what your job, business, role entails, probably a good sign it's not for you.
And if you keep pushing a boulder uphill,
it will eventually, right? It'll roll you right over. I say that all the time. Like, there are days I don't feel like working. There's absolutely days I don't feel like working. But since starting this business, I've never had even a moment of, I don't want to be doing this.
Exactly. Sometimes I'm having a bad week. I have some personal stuff going on right
Sure.
now, and I'm like, I'm having a really bad week. It would just be so much easier if I didn't have a business and I just sat around and did nothing. But then I think in the next thought, oh, I'd be so bored, I'd be
I'd be
miserable.
so
So
bored.
forget
I
that.
always say Target. I need a part-time job at Target. Is how nice and non-stressful would that be? And then I see the poor kids at Target get yelled at by the crazy customers. Wouldn't really be any less stressful, right?
Exactly. And it would be stressful for minimum wage,
Right.
and it would be a lot less.
And in an outfit I will not look good in.
Oh, I don't think anybody looks good in red and khaki.
Khakis in a polo shirt, and I look like a 10-year-old boy. That's just how that is. I look like my 4th grade school picture in khakis.
I love it.
Of a boy.
I
Right.
love it.
Yes, totally.
But we digress.
But
it's true. Not every day is going to be a winner. And when the gurus, the marketing gurus, they tell you that everything is wonderful and they make $1 million, and do you want their exact blueprint for how they did it?
Took them 20 years, but here, I'll give it to you in this PDF checklist. Right?
Exactly. Here's the PDF, and you follow this to a T. Not to mention that marketing really needs to be individualized to
oh my
your
God. Thank you
brand.
for saying that.
You can't do the same thing that other people are doing and expect to get the same results.
Because you're a different person. That is my one of, I won't even call it my number one. I might have 3 or 4 number ones. That is one of my number one issues with these quick tactics is if it doesn't align with your goals and your strengths and your personality, it won't work for you. And then all you feel like is a failure.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes you feel worse.
Yeah.
So not only do you not know how to do it, but you now know how to do it wrong.
And you feel bad about all of it. So 100,000,000%. So tell me a little bit more. Let's go back to your business. Tell me a little bit more about like how you help your clients. What is it that you
Okay, now I'm lighting up again. I can't help it. It's
like excited, right?
I get all excited. I get to help every day. I get to help nonfiction authors and children's book authors get their message out into the world to make this world a better place. And that is why I'm here, and that is what I do. I get to help them with their messaging, their social media, email marketing, just basically everything that anybody can find about them. We co-create it, and they learn the strategy and the tactics. So it's like, well, should I use MailChimp or Aweber? Well, let's look and figure it out.
So it sounds like but it sounds like you don't necessarily need to be at $500,000 for you to help them.
Oh, no.
Like
no,
this, you can fit in a variety of different business phases.
Absolutely. It's really about where you want to go with your book. And because a lot of times, you've had a career perhaps, and then you write a book and you want to help leverage that book. And then you realize you don't have much personal branding. So that's where we're going to focus.
Got it.
Or you're newer to business and you've written a book and you want to leverage that. Well, I have a program that's a standalone program that you can easily implement all the things.
Nice.
So I don't do the implementation because that's not the fun part for me. That's the part you need to know how to do. And then you can have a VA or another assistant do it for you.
Cool. Awesome. So the most important piece, if people want to find you and continue this conversation with you and learn more of about how to make maternity clothes for breastfeeding, no, how to,
I can tell you, but
that's not what we want to tell. But learn more about how you can help them, how you got to where you are, all these different opportunities. Because again, in terms of tactics, books as credentials is one of my absolute favorites. What is the easiest way for them to get a hold of you?
Well, I'm everywhere online, but if you want a free, fun, awesome thing, your ultimate book marketing checklist, can grab that, and it's at vipdigital.live/checklist. And it is
vipdigital.live/checklist.
Yep, and it is there. It is for you, and you can see the things that you need to know. There's also some worksheet there that helps you outline your lead magnet, which is super vital if you want to grow an email list.
Absolutely, absolutely. Highly recommend. Thank you so much for not just your tidbits and subject matter expertise, but your just delivery on your experience, because we all live in this social media world where we're seeing everybody at highlight and all their highlights, but the truth is never quite that pretty. And I think it's important to know that we're all in this and it happens to all of us, and that there's a way out to finding what it is that you actually love doing.
I appreciate that, Erin. I appreciate the opportunity and the platform to tell people, like, it's not all, rainbows and whatever, but it can be wonderful.